Welcome to 5-Star Company Culture with your host, Josh Cunningham. In this podcast, we explore how culture is the key to unlocking massive profits and unprecedented freedom. Discover insights, strategies, and inspiring stories to transform your life and business. Here's your host, Josh Cunningham.
All right, good afternoon and welcome to another episode of our 5-Star Company Culture podcast. I'm your host, Josh Cunningham. I'm the founder and CEO of rokrbox, which of course is a done-for-you inside sales assistant solution in the real estate space. Over the last 10 years, we've managed over 3 million internet leads, and we've hired and trained over 400 inside sales assistants. And one of the secrets to our success has been having a winning company culture. So this podcast is all about 5-star company culture and how, as an entrepreneur, it can help you unlock your personal and business freedom. As a business owner, really help you establish that 5-star review, 5-star reviews from your clients, 5-star reviews from your employees, and just really building that foundation in your organization to unlock that freedom. So today's guest is a good old friend of mine, Lars Hedenborg from the real estate space. How's it going, Lars?
Man, it is going pretty well. Sort of a whirlwind first quarter here with travel, but I am excited to share on a topic that I feel like I've figured some things out, and I've made all the mistakes you could possibly make when it comes to leading and managing and building a company based on culture and core values. So I'm excited to get after it.
Awesome. We definitely appreciate your presence here on the show today. Lars and I, our paths crossed probably about almost 15 years ago. I was working for a marketing firm in the real estate space. We bumped into each other at a mastermind, and he was at the time building what was become a very highly successful real estate team. Now he's gotten into the coaching space as well. So he's been able to leverage that experience and that expertise that he's gained in growing and building his own business. And now he helps real estate professionals all across the country do exactly the same. So Lars, why don't you kind of give us a little back end story of how'd you wind up in the real estate space, and how'd you wind up growing and building the real estate B school?
Yeah, so I started out as an investor. I relocated from New Jersey to North Carolina, and bought 10 or so investment properties, and sort of got sold into real estate by my broker at the time, and really didn't realize what I was getting myself into. But I quickly figured out how to generate leads, the discipline of time blocking and calling those leads back and following up with them, and then building sort of nurture sequences and systems. And then we connected on the database side of things and, lifetime client value and all that. But really building, a team for any business, and for me, for sure, was like out of the necessity. I was disciplined enough to do the things, or maybe aware enough to do the things that made me a lot of money. I hired the leverage on the back end with, an admin, and then in the real estate space, not showing homes and doing the lower important things, but the lower dollar productive tasks. And, a very selfish, when I look back on those like first 2, 3, maybe even 5 years, it was really that I was just losing my mind. I had, newly married, had a couple young kids. I was, selling a lot, and it was like throw bodies, swipe someone else's core values, a coach at the time, and kind of throw bodies into the mix. And, I've been in business for 15, 16 years at this point, and really, some painful lessons in the beginning, letting people into your world that, have nothing to do with who you are and how you operate. And, the DNA of a business is the culture, which are the core values. But then really tactically and practically defining those core values and hiring against those core values, coaching, firing against those core values, and have them, be living and breathing in the business. So that's kind of a nutshell. In our space, I've served 5,000 plus families, started a coaching business 10 years ago, same limitations as a leader that I had in the real estate business were the same limitations that I brought into my coaching business. And I've since started another business 2.5 years ago. But so that we can get into the conversation about like, how do you what is culture? How do you define, core values and all that stuff? But I've definitely made the mistakes.
Yeah. Well, you talk about being action driven, and a lot of times there's a lot of action takers in the real estate space. You have the opportunity to get licensure and go out and create transactions. And with those transactions comes a hefty financial reward. But if you really rewind back, the whole human action taking process, your actions are driven by the emotions that you have, which of course are driven by the thoughts, and those thoughts come from your beliefs. And so to me, I've always been a purpose driven organization from day one, and so it made a lot of sense for me to have something to believe in, to have something that drives your thoughts, that drives your emotions, and that those types of things cause you to take the right action. And of course, you take the right action, you get the right results. So why don't you share maybe a glimpse into the wrong things that you did? What were some of the biggest mistakes that you did when first establishing core values and building that company culture?
Yeah, I mean, core values, it's kind of one of those things, and maybe in every small business, you hire out of this desperate need for help and not a moment of, silence, or you kind of sequester yourself and write these beautiful core values and who you want to surround yourself with, and in 5 years we're going to look like this, and I want to sort of do that journey with these types of people. It really doesn't happen that way. For me, it's just like my first admin, luckily my first 2 hires ultimately were core value fits, but there were a dozen against those 2 that weren't core value fits, and I let the wrong people into my world. So the mistakes are really not being clear. You're going to spend a lot of time with these people. It's not just to make your life easier, it's to make their life better. And in the early days, it really was selfishly just to make my life better, because I was losing my mind. Because I was just working every evening, every weekend, and it was not sustainable, and anybody could have done at the time. And I see that a lot in our niche, or in our vertical. It's real estate, but I've got to imagine in any business, are the people that are working in your world aligned with how you roll and how you want to present yourself to the market. And just leading, being over capacity. I think another thing the mistake I made, I was over capacity most of the time. So I was not showing up great as a husband. I was not showing up as a dad. I was not taking care of my physical body. I was just saved at the time, sort of came to know Jesus in 2009, 10, wasn't spending any time with God, spending all of the time, even if I wasn't actually doing the work of a real estate agent, I was definitely thinking about it. And when you bring people into your world, I wasn't nice at home. I was very short and triggered most of the time. And I was the same way in the business. And I didn't have the time to properly onboard people or train them, or, if I was building systems, it was sort of like 11 p.m., midnight, a few nights a week, where I was, the only breathing room I had was in those crazy nighttime hours. So just putting yourself in a position where you're not so 11 out of 10, stressed out, and making sure you bring the right people in, but you also have the capacity to make sure they're successful.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about what was the big pivot point? What was the big breakthrough for you that caused you to change up your approach to business and to core values and having a highly productive culture in your organization?
Yeah, it was the 4th agent that I hired.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say his name just in case randomly. But someone asked me, I don't know if it was a coach at the time or a peer. They asked me, let's say it was Josh, would you buy a home from Josh? And I'm like, holy cow, not in a million. I let this agent onto my team. I said, in a million years would I, let this agent Josh, help my best friend buy a home. My best friend would think that, I'm a joke. He never did his work. He didn't show up on time. He was sort of goofy and not very bright. So just did not represent anything I would want out in the marketplace. So that was the moment for me. And I think that was probably my second, third year in the business. So then it was just a process of like actually writing down. And I think at the time we took a couple sort of my DNA, my core values, how I roll in business, plus a couple agents on the team, and what were the common threads between the three of us, like work, discipline, accountability, like actually do the right thing, those sorts of things, like very practical. Like in order to succeed in my world, you have to already be these things.
Yep.
Right. Core values aren't something that one can aspire to. It's who you are and the best of who you're surrounded with. And we just went through an exercise, and I think we just brainstormed, like put our three names on a board and just wrote down keywords. Like, how would you describe, I think one of the agents was Sharon at the time, or John, and we've done the exercise over a couple of times just to sort of make sure we were on point. And then sort of craft statements out of those words, like positive mindset and, the things that you would obviously need to be a highly successful real estate agent and really help your clients. So that was kind of the process. And then once we had that, it just becomes part of who we are. So now we're meeting with agents on a regular basis, or team members on a regular basis, and we're literally scoring them against the core values. So we have a conversation point. So when we can say, I'm going to pull them up here so I can actually go through them for the real estate team, because I have them for my coaching company as well, but it'll make more sense.
And I think as you're pulling those up, one of the things that makes a lot of sense is you said core values aren't something that you can be coached into or convinced to become. It really is something that explains who you actually are, what you believe in, right? What you give your attention to. And I remember years ago, I was at a marketing conference and was just absolutely blown away by the level of customer support from all of the employees that were working the event. And towards the end of one of the last sessions, I was sitting in the back of the room next to one of the, employee volunteers, and I struck up conversation with them. And I said, man, I would love to see your training manual that you guys have on customer service. And, I've just been blown away by the experience today. And they told me, well, we actually don't have any training on customer service. And it caught me off guard. And what they do is in their hiring process, they make sure that they're actually attracting the right types of people that believe in what they believe in. And that is just someone who's already customer focused to begin with. It's not to say that you can't learn customer service best practices, but the quality of people that they pulled in were the people that truly believed in what the company believed in when it came to delivering exceptional customer service. And that's how they built that phenomenal team.
Yeah. And it's so we had 6 core values, and I remember even presenting these on a regular basis. We would present these to the team, and the first 2, we hustle and work hard, and we embrace accountability and discipline. The first 2 knock out like minimum 95% of licensed real estate agents. So whatever I know this podcast is above and beyond the real estate industry, but whatever your industry, there's a common thread to how you roll and how you want your best people to roll.
Yep.
In a sales focused business, which is a real estate team, I couldn't be around someone who's going to drag ass and not show up and work hard. I couldn't be around someone who's, not going to be personally accountable and disciplined, track their numbers. And we even broke it down, with like bullet points. So say with each core value. I'll give you one example here. So we hustle and work hard. We even had scripture associated with it. We said, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord. And then we said, we're not afraid to put in the hours or do the jobs that nobody wants. No task is too big or small. We are hungry for success. We do not wait for things to happen to us, but rather proactively seek these opportunities. We are also not afraid to fail. The faster we fail, the faster we succeed. We don't overthink things. We just do it. So when someone comes into our world, we're using this to interview and hire. And then we're constantly, putting our people against these core values, and everything becomes easier when you use this. We are team players in the real estate space or any sales organization. Sometimes there are folks that just, they want to do their own thing and they're just using the team as a crutch to sort of bridge to the next level in their career. And we could, through questions in the interview process, we could weed those folks out. I asked a guy, like, hey, Josh, where do you want to be 3 years from now? He's like, I want to be in your seat.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be running a real estate team. I'm like, okay, well, good luck. I didn't have the coaching company at that time, but I don't want to hire someone that wants to run a business. I want to hire someone that knows they are going to be a good fit in a team.
Mm-hmm.
And they know the leverage of our systems and our cadence and our accountability. So there's really practical interview questions around each of these. And it just makes, culture is more than core values, but the bulk of it, if you get this one thing right, then, when we're coming in on whatever, April 1st, and it's a Saturday and we're calling expireds because it's a big expired day, the team isn't hemming and hawing and like, over it. They're like, we hustle and work hard and we embrace accountability and discipline. And this is what it takes to be successful. I'm not going to complain that it's a Saturday, right? We'll set 20 listing appointments on a Saturday where every other agent is waiting till Monday to make those calls.
Yep.
So just a different level of game that we're willing to play because we brought the right people into our world to begin with.
Yeah. You had mentioned it when once you have a solid, established company culture, it just makes everything easier is what you said. Can you elaborate on a couple other points, whether it be your real estate business or your coaching business, on some things that have just become easier for you as a business owner, as a leader, as someone attracting talent and creating raving fans from your customers? What would be some examples of making life easier?
Yeah, I would say so. In the coaching business, we have a different core value. We have a growth mindset. Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better is the quote from Jim Rohn. And, the scripture is, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And even the visual of iron sharpening iron, like literally the process of iron sharpening iron is not a process. It is very, it's very clashing, right? If you do that, sparks will fly. So we can't have a coach in our coaching company that's afraid to get into it with a client.
Yep.
Right. So from an internal standpoint, we need some people that have growth mindset. They see a version of themselves and their clients that are bigger than where they are now. So that's kind of an example on that side. And then we also have we are true, authentic, and real, where we're not afraid to have just real conversations like, Josh, we're looking at your calendar right now and you're telling me that these are your priorities, but it's not even close to what's showing up, right? I'm looking at your net worth statement, which is part of what we coach to, is making sure you have something to show for your efforts you put into your business. And it doesn't make sense where the money's going, right? Overspending, you're not budgeting, you're not doing the things. So not being afraid to engage in those conversations.
Yep.
And if we have people on our team, even our administrators, our client care people, they're in an administrative role, but they have the permission to call agents out because they have these core values, even if they're not right in their face like I am. I don't, Josh, if you don't want to pay me because I'm upsetting you right now, but you gave me the permission to kind of treat you in this way when you were sort of throwing the BS my way. So that's kind of an example, of core values in a different business, but they're still important. And it's not just a sales versus an admin thing. An admin may be a little bit more quiet, have a quieter way of doing it. They have permission, to leverage these core values with our clients as well.
Yep. And that's ultimately the goal as a business owner. Being self-employed means you own a job that you show up and work for, but being a business owner means that you own systems and processes and core values and structure and leverage that empowers others to, like you said, do that heavy lifting for you. It's the message isn't just coming from Lars. The message is coming from everybody within your organization. And that obviously allows you to, unlock some freedom in your life. You were just sharing with me that you just took a trip to Japan, last week to go invest in your continued education. And I'm sure all the while back at home, that the things were still going and flowing and moving because you've created that foundation of excellence and that strong company culture. So we'll really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day, Lars, to come come on the podcast today. Any last thoughts or questions about core values or company culture?
Yeah, I'm going to pick up on what you just said. You have zero shot of having any sort of freedom in your business if you don't have a high degree of confidence that the people in your business will do the right thing, even if they're not trained on it or they're sort of making decisions outside of the scope of their work, because they are the right people, because their DNA is structured in a way where they fit the core values. I actually traveled 8 out of the 13 weeks in the first quarter.
Wow.
So we're actually recording this at the beginning of the second quarter. And, when I was in Tokyo, I didn't realize this at the time, but I would wake up in the morning and the business day had just finished the day before.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much every day I was there, the team had taken care of everything, so they're empowered, because I know they don't know everything, and there's certain things they can't do, but they're empowered to make decisions. And I know they're going to make the right decisions because, we're team players, we're humble servants, we're going to collaborate when we don't know, and we're going to help each other. We're not going to be sort of selfish with our time. So that's a really good point. It's kind of a final thought. If you get this wrong, you'll constantly be taking all of the jobs back in your business. Mm-hmm. So there's no freedom if you get the culture wrong. And it's expression, I forget, is it Peter Drucker, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yep.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, culture is the whole game, even with a small business. And especially with a small business, because you're going to be spending your time with 1 or 2 people. If you're a solopreneur that is going to go through that first stage of growth, you're hiring an admin and maybe a little bit of sales support, you're going to be spending all of your time with these people, and you'll be banging your head against the wall. You'll go back to being a solopreneur if you don't have those first couple of good hires that fit your core values.
Yep. That's what we say. Culture is the key. In fact, that's our Instagram handle. So be sure to look us up on all the social channels. Culture is the key for more information. And we appreciate your viewership of the podcast as well. So thanks again for joining us, Lars, and join us again next week for another amazing guest.
Awesome.
Thank you for tuning in to 5-Star Company Culture with Josh Cunningham. Embrace these lessons to elevate your business and join the ranks of thriving organizations. Stay tuned for more episodes. And until next time, remember, culture is the key to your success.